to the Unleash Success Podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you real tools and strategies that get real results. And now, here's your host, Corey Corpodian.
All right, guys, this is Corey Corpodian. Here we are with Unleash Success Podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you guys some real tools and strategies that get you real results. I am so excited to be interviewing a good friend of mine who is a leading expert and innovator in the martial arts industry. He's developed a program that actually uses martial arts to forge thousands of families into leaders each year through his company, Up Level Martial Arts. Sam started this company at 15 years old, and we're going to learn a little bit about his story and how he's become this incredible entrepreneur, teacher, and inspirer of many in his rapidly growing company. In today's interview, I'm going to go over exactly how Sam grew his company to build out into 3 different states and how he maintains the passion and drive to continuously help others do, be, and have more than they ever thought possible in their own lives. Let's welcome and jump right in to talking to Mr. Sam Wegert. Sam, again, thank you very much for coming on the show. I want to get started just by introducing you and having you tell us a little bit about your story, who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. You got it, man. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. So, who I am. My name is Sam Wegert. I'm 26 years old, and my main thing that I would say is a very big part of my identity right now is a martial artist. And someone who is very passionate about spreading the benefits of martial arts to as many people as possible. Martial arts has been taught as a very traditional thing. It's been taught the same way for a lot of years, but I believe I've kind of been put in this station, and I've been stationed in this industry to make a difference and innovate in this industry, and we just get to see some amazing difference in a lot of people's lives. So that's one of the things I'm most proud of, is just the discipline that we build in kids, the confidence that we build in kids, how they get to get along better with their teachers because of their martial arts training, and how a lot of single moms get to bring their kids in and have a real strong male role model for their children. So it's been martial arts changed my life when I was really young. It taught me to be disciplined and focused, and I get to give that back. So I've also had the unique privilege of just being around some really wealthy people and being really successful people, and having a drive to create wealth in finances has always been, I would say, ever since I was very, very young, another part of my identity. So I've studied that, and Think and Grow Rich was on I probably read that when I was 18 or 19 years old, and just I've really done my best to apply those principles, and achieved a net worth status that I'm really proud of, because it was a cool thing, and I got to join this group called GoBundance, which is a tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous men that choose to lead epic lives. So we travel around, we help people, we give back, but we also really focus on building our wealth and building our family's wealth, and making a difference.
Man, you are killing it, I'd say, right now. And we really didn't even get into the martial arts studio that you have and how that's growing, but it's obviously fueling you financially to be able to do all these other amazing things. The mastermind group, which I love. And investing, So I'd like to go back to just, you said martial arts changed your life. How did it change you, and what kind of impact, what happened in martial arts when you were a young kid?
I was homeschooled K through 12, and was raised in a small town of a couple thousand people in the country. And it was just more of an introverted kid, was more of a shy kid. And my mom met this guy at the library that happened to be a martial arts instructor, and he said that he told my mom that martial arts builds discipline. And I was like the introverted kid with tons of energy. And so I would break stuff. I would, like, if I touched it, I wasn't that coordinated evidently, and I would break things, and my mom just had trouble dealing with me, and her greatest punishment was, go run around the house 10 times or something.
Okay.
And so my mom got me enrolled. The guy that ran the school became like a second father to me. took me under his wing and was just an amazing, amazing role model for me to look up to, someone of good character. And that's what we strive to do in our schools now, is provide these role models for the kids, for the families. But it helped me step outside of my shell. It's helped me grow my confidence. I earned belts, and when you earn belts, you recognize that you put the work in and you get a reward for it. And so I learned that. I got to learn to defend myself, and I was always picked on. I was just picked on as a kid, not intensely, but I was picked on. And this empowered me as a youngster. And I think I was always the weird kid. I was always the one that just thought a little bit differently, kind of held back. And so this really helped me step outside of my shell. So I would say initially it was martial arts, and then it was a guy that came into the school to teach business, and he was teaching me the martial arts business. And this was probably where I really built my confidence, because one of the ways that we marketed during that time in this town was we just would walk out in the parking lot as people were putting away their groceries. And we walk up to him and, say, "Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, ma'am. I'm doing a survey. Would you mind answering 3 quick questions for me?" And we'd go this little 3-question survey. And the last question was, "Can I give you a free month of martial arts class from our school?" And we would have to approach complete strangers. Again, I'm homeschooled. I'm not around a lot of people. And that was so intimidating for me. And I can remember where but I had to get 5 appointments a day. I was hired. I was like 13 years old doing this, because you're homeschooled. You get these jobs super young, and your mom helps you get them because you want to fill the time. And I just remember like going out, and I'd meet 3 or 4 people, and then I would come back into the studio and I would cry, like literally cry, simply because it was just intimidating for me. So martial arts helped me build my confidence. Learning business helped me build my confidence, and really gave me a drive to be somebody, and also made me feel like I was somebody.
So I'm big on our beliefs and how our beliefs shape us. And so, being introverted and homeschooled, obviously you're not around a lot of people. You're not putting yourself out there very much. And all of a sudden you're thrown in at 13 years old. You're having to talk to all these different people and try and get them to sign up. What did you believe initially going into that as a kid about that experience? Like, what did you believe was going to happen? And then after, obviously, you've done very well for yourself. So, what do you believe now, and how is that different?
Well, initially, I believed I wasn't valuable. Initially, I just believed like I didn't fit in. Yeah, I would say those were probably the main beliefs. Like I didn't fit. And so that was, interestingly enough, an inspiring belief, if this makes any sense, because I strove so hard to fit in, which was, I would say initially was kind of the backbone of my work ethic. I had a good work ethic regardless, but in this industry, I said, you know what, if I can be successful, if I can make money, then surely the people with money, they fit in. And I didn't make the connection that like they're kind of separate. Like you can make a lot of money, but still be the crazy introvert that never talks to anybody. And you can also be the loving, friendly guy with a ton of friends that doesn't make any money. I just didn't realize they were separate. Somehow I linked those up in my mind that A, if I help people, then I get love. And B, if I make a lot of money, then I get love. So those drove me. What do I believe now? I would say the belief has shifted a lot. It's a really good question, Corey, but I would say the belief has shifted. I tell my staff, I say, look, this started, people ask me like, oh, you must have wanted to like just make this big difference in martial arts when you started. And I tell them like, no, it was when someone bought a headgear and they gave me $40 in cash, and I took the $40 in cash and I put it in my pocket. That was why I did. I was like, this is where it's at. It was about the money for me. That's what kept me going. But it's slowly it's gone from money to a ministry for me. It truly have. And it's like every day I feel myself more pulled to the ministry, the impact, from income to impact is how I describe it. So I'd say my belief now is that the money comes when you make an impact. The money comes when you make a difference. I still have remnants of not fitting in. I would be lying to you if I said, I still have remnants of that belief. And I honestly think the value that I get from it is I still push. I want to fit in with a different crowd, if that makes sense. Like I look at these guys, one of these guys that I really admire and look up to his name is David Osborne. He's a big key player in GoBundance, one of the elders and one of the guys that really was behind it and starting it. And he's got a net worth of 100 million. And he flies his plane, but he takes the time to coach us GoBundance members, individually sometimes. And I want to fit in his crowd, and so I feel like there's still that mentality that still plays, and it calls me to a higher level. So I guess I could probably do some work on that, but I haven't yet. I'm just trying to be really honest with you in this call, just so I can have as much authenticity as possible for people. But I would say, yeah, I still struggle with, I want to fit in. And when I finally reach a level where I do fit in with that crowd, I usually raise the level. And I'm like, you know what? That crowd, I want to fit in with a new crowd that's doing bigger things, that's making bigger impact, that's making more money. And I'm competitive in that way. And sometimes I find that my girlfriend will tell you this, but I beat myself up over being competitive. And I'm like, no, I shouldn't be that way. I should be more just chill and let everybody be them. But I kind of feel like it's the way I'm made. And I've kind of just rolled with it.
Those are all great, man. I got to tell you, I love the fact that you still have that belief a little bit. And some beliefs, though, right? Maybe in the beginning they hurt us, but we had them for a good reason. And like you said, you're trying to fit in, but it actually pushes you towards your goals. And so you've held on to it, which is there's nothing wrong with that. I actually love it. Yeah. I mean, I love that you're honest about it too. And, maybe you could work on it, but maybe you want to find a different one. I don't know. But if it's pushing you towards your goals, I like it, So that keeps pushing you further and further. And it's little things like that. And I also loved how you said, it was income to impact, right?
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Because much like you, I mean, I know we share a lot in common, and I was driven so much by money. That was my entire focus and goal. And the minute you make a lot, it's hard for people when you're just surviving. I know that because I've been there too. You're like, I just need to make money. But the minute you actually make enough to survive, you realize that wasn't actually the goal. And all of a sudden you start searching, much like we've searched in our own minds and figured it out, but giving back. I find contributing, doing something to help other people, which is why I think we connect so well in addition to that. So thank you for sharing that. That was great.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because there's it's the never enough. It's the never enough, monster, if you will. And I have a team member who just recently hit a 6-figure mark in our business, which I was really proud of him for doing that. And he's a young guy. He's a real young guy. And I called him up and had a conversation with him the other day. And I said, if you had known that you were going to be making this much money 3 years ago, it would have seemed like a lot, wouldn't have been? He was like, oh yes. I said, but now that you've made it, does it really seem like a lot? And he's like, no. And I was just like, I know, it's the weirdest thing. Like, once you make it, it's not a lot. And it could be, like, the number doesn't matter. Like, it could be,
it could be $1 million.
Whatever.
It could be 500,000. All of a sudden you make it and you're like, oh, I need more. I need more. Yeah. And I grew up like that. I mean, I saw my parents, they were always kind of chasing it. It was 6 figures was back then too. That was a really big deal. But the minute it was, 100,000, it was 150,000. Right. And then you keep building and building, and people get all these crazy beliefs around money. So I appreciate the fact that you said if you make an impact, the money will come, and I completely agree with that. So I'd love to go back to that guy that came in and taught you some business. How old were you when that happened?
I was 14 years old.
14? Oh, I thought you were a little bit older. But so he starts teaching you the business. When was the moment you said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do?
I'll tell you exactly the moment. He drove up in a red Ferrari. I was 14 and I was raised in the country. He drove up in a red Ferrari, and I remember, he was an older guy. He wasn't like a young guy, but he was dynamic. He had a lot of energy. Grandmaster Arthur. He's still in my life today. He still coaches my team. He still coaches me. I just talked to him a couple days ago. Here we are 10 years later, 12 years later. And he drove up with this little red Ferrari, and one day he looked at me and he goes, because I had to get a ride. Obviously, I didn't have my driver's license. So he looked at me and he goes, I'll take you home. And I was like, you'll do what? So I sat in this little car and he talked with me, and he just talked with me. He said, look, you remind me of my sons, and my sons did this business and they were really great. And he said, you have lots of potential. I can't wait to see you, what you become and what you do. And I just remember it was like that spark of belief, right? And many people up to this point have believed in me. I don't want to take credit away from anybody. My parents, believed in me. They gave me $15,000 as a 15-year-old to buy this little martial arts school that I bought. My instructor, Master Clements, believed in me. I mean, these guys all believed in me, but this guy was, for some reason, I just saw him as an elevated status for whatever reason. Maybe because he drove a Ferrari. And,
well, Ferrari will do that to a 14-year-old, right?
Yeah. And I think what I saw as a youngster was I saw that I could be somebody. And I know I keep coming back to that point, but God, I just think, I think a lot of us, we forget what it's like to be a youngster, and we want to make a name for ourselves. We want to be somebody. We want to be recognized. And, if you follow Tony Robbins at all, you recognize that at the end of the day, we all just want love. We just want, and my way of getting love was to fit in and be successful. So,
you got to make your own way as a kid. You got to pave your own path, but not a lot of 14-year-olds jump into a Ferrari and say, hey, I want to own my own dojo and I want to own my own studio and borrow 15 grand from their parents. I mean, if I asked 15 grand from my parents at 14, I don't think they would have given it to me.
Sure.
So you had to have some passion. You had to have some charisma, and they had to believe in you a lot. So it's very interesting that was the one moment. I love it. So you borrow 15 grand, you buy a studio, and you're 15 years old doing this. I mean, how does it work? How did you just get started in business?
Yeah. You fake it till you make it is how it works. And I know there's different philosophies on that philosophy, but I faked it till I make it. I spiked my hair so that I would look older, and people would regularly say, "How old are you? Like, you're running this school," and they would ask me, and I would never tell them because I was supposed to have someone at the school that was over 18 just for legal purposes, and I never actually did. That didn't happen. And so I was there as a 15-year-old running this place, and I would just get up there and I would just try my best. And that was one of our philosophies that my martial arts school taught was you get out there and you try your best, and no matter as long as you try your best, then you're successful. As long as you try your best, you've done the most that you can do. And so that's how you do it as a 15-year-old. I had a tremendous amount of drive. I remember working 60, 70, 8-hour weeks. I mean, a lot of my friends were taking trips or doing dance conventions or just doing fun stuff. And I enjoyed work. I enjoyed being in the school. I enjoyed seeing people progress in their belt ranks. I enjoyed having this community, because in a martial arts school, you build a community of 200-300 people, and it becomes like a family. And I loved it. My family was so supportive. I had a unique advantage because I was homeschooled. And so I got done with high school about at the age of 15. And when I say done, I just mean like my mom didn't have any more books for me to do, And so I got duly enrolled in a college, and just realized that wasn't for me. And then, and jumped in the martial arts. And a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people go to traditional high school and they decide to go the college route. At the end of the day, I don't think it matters what age you are. I think the lesson that I really took away from my first couple of years in business was just, man, it's you just work hard. You work hard and you fail a lot and you try to make a lot of mistakes and you just do your best, and knowing that you don't know everything.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, mistakes are part of the path to success and failure too. I was curious because we talked about working 70 hours a week. And, I talked to a lot of younger kids who want to be successful and want to drive an R8 or, buy a Lamborghini or Ferrari, something like that. And I asked them, do you think you can do it? No, not really. I'm like, well, don't you think you could work really hard for it? I work really hard now. I'm like, how many hours a week do you work? 30. But they're long days. Right. I'm on my feet, stuff like that. You're sitting there thinking, man, I've been putting in, 80-hour weeks for I can't remember how many years pursuing my passions or working or whether it was studying to do something bigger and better with my life.
Right.
You at a very young age, I mean, where do you think you got that motivation, that fire inside you to say, hey, I'm going to do 70 to 80 hours? I mean, was it just I want to be somebody? I was really excited that somebody believed in me. I mean, what was it that drove you? Because at 15 years old, to jump in a 60 to 80 hour work week is pretty intense. I
would say, yes, I wanted to be somebody. a lot of times I feel like people are taught in school, I was taught, it's not, you don't copy people. You don't want to copy people, be yourself. And, but growing up, I met Tony Robbins at a young age. I didn't actually meet him, but I went to one of his seminars at like 17 years old. And I was listening to him a lot younger than that. And I remember just the way that he spoke, and I copied everything he did. And I tell people this all the time. I say, you copy. If you find someone you like and you want to be even remotely like them, copy the way they walk, copy the way they dress, copy the way they talk. And people tell me, they'll be like, you sound like Tony Robbins when you talk. I'm like, yes, I modeled him when I was really, really young. But I would say having a role model as a young kid was huge. And Tony was the guy. And so it was just like he was the guy. And he spoke about wealth, and he spoke about abundance, and he spoke about making a difference in people's lives. And I idolized him. And that's not I don't know if that's a cool thing to do or not. But I did. And I think we all idolize something or someone. And I think the key is, especially for kids, because I teach a lot of kids now, it's not a matter of teaching them to not idolize someone. It's who are they idolizing? Is it Britney Spears, or is it, Tony Robbins? Is it like, who are they idolizing? Because you become like that person, right? You copy them and you model them. So if I had to give you like a specific thing, I would say that guy I wanted to be him, like so much so that I would like do different things and pat my chest in the same way that he would. And, I know a lot of people have done that, and it's cool. I think it's awesome. I think when someone wants to – I was listening to Jim Rohn the other day, and he said the same thing. He goes, if someone's walking funny but he makes a lot of money, well, heck, copy their walk. At least you've got the walk like they do. And he was just going on and on about it. I thought it was great.
It's so true, man. I've modeled people my entire life, and I think that's how you learn. And when you want to master something, why look at other people and try to reinvent the wheel? Just copy it, and then you can make your own rims, or you can make it better. You can get deeper grooves. You can get creative, but you got to master the basics first. So I completely agree with you on modeling. So modeling is huge, and the motivation, it's just, as a young kid, we're so impressionable. For me, when I was younger,
what was yours? I'm curious.
When I was younger, it was really, it was money, man. I'm not going to even lie. It was totally money. I wanted to make a ton of money, and I wanted to be successful. But it's very interesting. I think that when I was young, I wanted to be, in a lot of ways, like my dad. I always played sports, and I always wanted him to kind of say, hey, son, you did a good job, right? And I love you, and you're doing great. And so I kind of did that for approval for a while. But it also became who I was. I liked winning. I liked being good at things, and I liked being successful. And I said, if I can do this X, Y, and Z and be successful, follow somebody else's path, which becoming an orthodontist at the time was the path. And so I spent 10 years. I was also, one thing my mom taught me, when you commit to something, you can't just back out of it because it's hard. And I got really confused with it being hard, which it was, and me not wanting to do it. So I never backed out of it because I was, I'm going to prove them I can still do it. And I did, and I was very good at it. But at the same time, I learned, unfortunately, after the entire fact, that it might not have been exactly what I want. I'm super grateful for it, and it provided me with this amazing life. And I love it now, and I appreciate it a lot more now. But in the beginning, when the drive was solely money, what drives me now is completely different. It's just, it's not about how much money you make.
I know what you're saying is true because I was talking to you the other day before this call, and you said that you went and spoke in front of the Marines, and you said, but here's what you told me, and I picked up on it. You said it was very intimidating, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you said something like, it was very intimidating, but I went in to serve them, and we had a great time. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, how many other people in your shoes would have gone in, been intimidated, and fumbled it up because they're so focused on themselves, right? Like, how did I do? Am I going to do a good job? Is this going to be a good job for me? Which is really just a very internal focus. But the fact that you pushed through, you took the focus off yourself. You said, okay, I might do a good job, I might not, but I'm going to focus on the Marines that are sitting in front of me. When you said that, I was like, I noticed that switch in you. And not even a switch, because I don't, I just noticed that that's really where you're coming from, it from an authentic place. And I love it. And hey, I was going to say, I think the theme of the last couple minutes of us talking, I just wrote this question down as we were talking, was I don't think everybody is type A personality. Like, obviously, there are a lot of successful people are, but there's a lot of successful people that aren't. So if someone's listening to this and they're going, well, I'm not the crazy person that wanted to make a ton of money and make it, I don't know if everybody has the same level of drive. And I've learned that that's okay. Some of us are more designed as hunters and some of us are more designed as farmers. I believe that. I really, truly believe that. And not that you don't have some say in the matter and choice, but just some of the way they're wired. But maybe the common theme of what we're saying is like, who is in our circle? And you mentioned, who are we idolizing? Kind of going back to what we talked about like who are our role models and who we're looking up to. And so the question came up for me to throw out there is like, well, who do you idolize? And it's okay to idolize, like and it's okay to like copy. And in school, we're taught not to copy, but I think it's a really good idea to copy. Like if someone's doing something, well, what did Picasso say? Like the great artists borrow, but the best ones steal. They just take or they copy. The best ones copy, I think was what it was, or something like that.
Something like that's very close, yeah.
So yeah, who are we idolizing? Who's in your circle? No matter what personality type you have, who's in your circle, and who are you looking up to, and who are you just saying, you know what, that's why I'd like to be like that guy. And we live in such an individualistic culture, I feel like right now, that we shy away from that. We're like, no, just be yourself. And I get that, but I think it's also really valuable to have those people that you're like, I'd like to be like that. I'd like to be more like that.
Absolutely. And we talk about, I know you'll recognize this quote, but the expectations you have of yourself are the expectations of your peer group. So who you surround yourself with. Tony Robbins said that, and also too, just you hear that quote all the time, where you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who you surround yourself with, absolutely. And it sounds like you've done a great job with that. You've had some great mentors, and that might be something that a lot of people should make a habit of. Actually consciously make a habit of surrounding themselves with people who are like-minded individuals, who are interested in the same area of them, and it's not always about business, but if you want to be the best martial artist, right, you want to hang out with people who are the best, who are, 5-degree black belts or win world championships. Maybe go hang out with your brother, right?
Right.
So I love all that stuff. And I'm curious to know, what are some of your daily habits, some of your daily routines that you do kind of religiously that maybe either shape who you are today, or also to really empower you to continue this success, because you are constantly growing and expanding, and it's fantastic to watch and be a friend of yours. And what are some things that you do, every day?
Love it. But I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to give a disclaimer before that. And my disclaimer to what I'm about to say is that I am a fan of variety. So my daily routine, it changes. and I'm a big fan of The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. And if you haven't read that book, that's off the charts, right? He has a very simple system. Like, it's a system you can follow, and then you can build on it for every morning, what you do to really put yourself in the right place. So I pretty much follow that. So like, I'll give you some of the ones off the top of my head. I exercise every day. I miss some days, yes, but religiously I exercise. I'm swimming. I'm training for a full Ironman right now. I have a half coming up in Wilmington in about a month. I just finished the hardest half Ironman on the entire Ironman circuit in Utah, St. George, Utah, and did it in just over 6 hours. So I was happy with that and love that part of my life. It's a great exercise for me, and it keeps me on my game. So exercising is just a habit. Like, you got to move your body. We know that emotion comes from motion. We know that feeling good comes from moving our bodies, so partly. So I think that's key. I read every day. I either listen to a podcast, I either listen to something, or I'm reading. And I like to read the Bible. I think the Bible at the end of the day is like the ultimate personal development book, especially like Proverbs. So I read that.
What's your favorite proverb right now that you're kind of contemplating? Or
good question. I just read Proverbs. What was yesterday? I do it by the day. Yesterday was 2. I just read Proverbs 2 yesterday. And they were talking about the importance of – I don't have a specific verse for that I can quote right now, but I'll tell you what they were talking about because I remember. It said they were talking about the importance of wisdom. And it was like, look, do whatever you've got to do. Like, wisdom is more valuable than riches. Wisdom is more valuable than gold. Like, go get wise. Like, go get wisdom. Like, go search it out. Go seek it out. Like, go find it. And that resonated with me because I was like, you know what? You could be the richest dumb person. And at the end of the day, that's not what I want to be. I'd like to be someone that has a life experience and knowledge and something to pass on. And I'd like to become somebody truly. And I think that's a lot more than what you have in your bank. So
Absolutely.
that was good question. Read every day. You know, one, I've been asked this question a bunch, and one that I just wrote down as you were talking is I compete every day. I know I do it. And I'd like to be the great person that says I compete with myself every day. And I do, but I also compete with other people. But it's partly myself, but I also I'll also be like, yeah, like this person's crushing it. Like, I don't know. I think of you crushing it and I'm like, man, like he's crushing it. Like compete comes from the word to conspire together. So like, I used to be so down on myself, Corey, for competing. I'd be like, no, I shouldn't do it. Like, I hate that I'm so competitive. I've learned to accept it. And someone said that, they told me, they said, look, compete is good. It's to conspire together. You come together to both become better. You compete, you conspire together. And I loved that. And so now I just I have my competitive people and I follow them on Facebook and I see what they're doing. And I know that's not good for some people, but it lights a little fire into my butt. I'm like, look, if they're out there crushing it and they're making a difference in lives, and I check in, does that fit in with my goals? I don't think I'm stepping way outside of who I am. I'm not changing my identity, but I'm like, all right, come on, let's keep going. What else do I do every single day? I eat healthily every single day. I eat good food. There's a new restaurant that opened up called Chopped. And they're becoming more popular now, but it's just like salads. You pick your salad and make it. It's my favorite. It's my favorite place in the entire world.
Nice. Yeah, no, same thing. You got to eat healthy. You got to fuel the body, give it what it needs.
Yes.
Man, it sounds like you're just on a roll right here. So you're getting super successful. You're rocking and rolling, but what would you say as you were growing your business, as you got 200, 300 people in your community, and what would you say is your biggest obstacle that you had to overcome, or maybe even fear or any kind of failure that you had, and how did you overcome it?
So I would just say I'll give you the short answer and the longer answer. The short answer is grit and just not giving up, honestly. And even when my emotions didn't match. So my emotions were telling me one thing, right? My emotions were saying, stop, do something else, run away. My emotions were screaming, and I had to deal with that, but I also had to push through that.
Quick question here, not to interrupt you too much, but
yeah, no,
I'm huge on the emotional fitness, and that's what I talk about all the time.
Yes.
And mindset and grit. And I was reading a study about grit, and grit, in this study, the way they defined it was very similar to, emotional fitness, kind of being able to push through. And they were talking about specifically Navy SEALs and how they stay successful with grit. How did you push through?
Right. Good question. I would say for me, Corey, it was a combination of things. I do remember I lived next to, when I was going through a lower point of my life, I lived next to a golf course. And I remember many times, one in particular, but going out, walking the golf course after all the golfers had left, at night in the dark. And sometimes I would just feel it so intensely in my chest. I would just feel it like a constriction. And I would just be so upset. And I would just scream. I would literally scream at the woods.
Awesome. Right? So you just got it out.
You got to somehow. I would literally just scream, and it helped. I'm not sure it did everything, but I was angry. And here's the crazy thing. If you were to ask me right now, well, tell me the circumstances that were going on in your life. And if I were to describe the events that happened that made me so internally constricted and conflicted, you would people would be pissed at me. Because it wasn't bad. Now it's even now I think about it, I'm like, it was just the first time I lost money. I was losing some money and I went through a breakup. But it wasn't. Nobody died. I didn't get stabbed. My car didn't start on fire. I didn't get in an accident. Nothing really crazy happened. It was So it's just interesting to me how we can go through circumstances, and the circumstances, it doesn't really matter, right? It's about it's about the internal, it's about how we deal with it. And obviously about the meanings that we apply to it. But it really it gave me more grace for people, because a lot of times I'll look at other people's life and be like, come on, like you have it actually really good, but they're still dealing with it on the inside. And it gave me more grace for those people of like, okay, we gotta deal with it on the inside. So I got it out. I screamed. I really attached to spirituality. I really attached more to my faith. I prayed more. I recognized that I just had this belief that, hey, I'm right where God wants me to be. Like right now, I'm right where God wants me to be. And I don't know if, and that got me through a big portion of it.
That's an incredible belief to have. And so it sounds like you dealt with it by screaming out loud, and people deal with things in different ways. But then you shifted to putting everything into faith, saying, I'm on a path. This is meant to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Yes.
So that belief's really powerful. Whether it doesn't matter, whatever your faith is. I believe that too, yes, that I am where I'm supposed to be. And I believe that I also have this crazy belief that if I work really hard, though, I'm going to be able to accelerate that somehow. But at the same time, when things are going bad, I believe if something's bad's going to happen, it's got to be for a reason. And how can I learn from it? How can I get better from it? Or what's the opportunity? There's always something good that can come out of it, no matter. And it's crazy, but sometimes it's so bad. But even it's just, you've got to find the good in it.
Right. I think some people are on both ends of that spectrum, right? Some people say everything in life happens for a reason, and some people say, no, there's no reason, like life just happens. And I heard someone once, they put it together and they say, what about this? What about this? Let's combine the two. What if everything in life happens for a reason and you get to decide what that reason is? And that was powerful for me going through this time as well, just recognizing that, no, there is a reason, and I get to have an influence and say, what is that reason? And sometimes, here's the crazy thing. If someone's listening to this, they're going through a crazy tough time. Here's the crazy thing. Sometimes you don't know what that reason is for years later. Something just happened, and I forget what it was, but I was like, oh, I know what. I'm growing my business now. I'm opening up multiple locations, and I'm hiring a lot of staff, and I'm seeing crazy change in my students and the staff and the people that we're impacting. Our organization's growing. And it's now 5 years later that I'm realizing why I needed to go through my failures, of my failure of the school and my having to go through that. And I'm like, wow, now I get it. But I didn't for the 5 years after that. I was kind of like, if you had asked me, I'd been like, I don't really know why I failed. I just made some bad decisions or whatever. But now it's like, no, I had to go through that to get to here. So it just takes time, and that's where faith comes in.
It's a key distinction that I like, and one big thing is that you can live life both ways. I've lived life both ways, where things don't happen for a reason. And the truth is life sucked when I thought that. Bad stuff would happen, and it would not empower me to be happier or have a better life or be more successful or follow my goals. It would disempower me and put me into a negative cycle. Yeah. Then I shifted that belief to, things happen for me, or if something bad's going to happen, I can find some good, or I can learn from it, or there's always an opportunity, or if there's an obstacle, I'm going to, jump over it, run around it, dig underneath it, build a door, whatever I got to do to go through it.
Yes.
And when I started believing that, though, bad stuff still happens. It's not like that goes away. It's just that now my belief has shifted to the point where I think, okay, if this is going to happen, how can I move around it? And now I'm empowered to pursue my goals, and I reach them faster and better, and I'm growing so much more quickly because of it. So
yes,
it's very good to have faith in something, and if you have that faith, whatever it is, it's very powerful for yourself, for what you want. Going back, you're talking about how you're dealing with this and how you're going into faith, and you said you're losing money. What would you say in this process for you was your greatest failure as you're building your entire multiple studios out, you're hiring tons of employees? What was your biggest failure? Obviously, you had some along the way. What was your biggest one?
Man, I think I don't know. I don't really see them as failures. This is why it's hard to answer that question, right? Because I look back at them now and I'm like, look, that wasn't a failure. That wasn't a failure. I did that. I can see where it's brought me. I'm really intentional about tracing the path of where it's brought me. And when most people ask me that question, I usually refer back to the time where I purchased a couple of martial arts schools, threw all my stuff in I lived in an apartment in Virginia, and I threw all my stuff, just carried what my Acura TL would carry. And I drove down, booked an extended stay America, and I was probably 20 or 21 years old, and I wrote $140,000 check, money that I had saved, my hard-earned cash. I had invested in silver, and I sold my silver to buy these two schools. And my vision, my expectation was that I would come down, just inspire the staff that were already running these two martial arts schools. So I just kind of like on a whim moved away from my family, took the advice of my mentor, just got out of town. And what ended up happening was very different from my expectation. And what happened was they all quit. All the staff members quit. I was left to run two martial arts schools, which you can't do. You can't be in two places at once. So I had to shut one down and deal with the contracts and the crap and the $4,000 a month lease at that time, and it was just all this stuff. And then it was all the internal stuff that I had to deal with. And I had just gone through a breakup literally my girlfriend broke up with me like right around that time. So I was just, going through it was a low time in my life. And that was probably what I would say is like the lowest point. I definitely don't think of it as a failure, but I would just say emotionally, it was a low point. And I'll tell you why. I think there's actually a lesson here. And I'd be curious your thoughts on this. But I think the low point, again, when I describe that, most people in business look at me and are like, great. So that happens in every business. Like everybody's got to go through that. Everyone's got to fail. And even when it was happening, I would call my friends and I would describe to them what was going on. And they'd be like, Sam, this is very normal. Like businesses lose money. And it's okay. You just have to, here's what you got to do. And nobody really resonated with me. But I was not communicating to them what was happening on the inside. I was just telling them the circumstances, and they were looking at the circumstances saying, that's crazy. That's like totally normal. And so I felt very misunderstood. But I think the reason I was going through so much emotional crap was not because of the circumstances. It was because my expectations were here and what ended up happening was here. And so it was just that drop.
I was reading something about in Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, and one of the Marine Navy guys, I think it was one of the Navy SEAL trainers, he always said, good. Something bad would happen, training mission's botched, it's canceled, good. On to the next mission. Right? So-and-so can't come to this event, good. Let's find something else. Let's focus on something else. His response was good to everything, no matter how bad it was or how good it was, because he was always like, good. Now we can shift our focus energy onto something else. And that's a mentality that I really look for in life now is, hey, that didn't work out. Good. Now I can do this. Good. Now I know that doesn't work, right? Sometimes it's just, hey, I tried really hard. It didn't work. Now what should I do? And if I always compare things to, if you've got a goal and you're not accomplishing it, you got to be like a GPS system, right? GPS system, you punch in the coordinates, you punch in the goal. If you make a left turn, are you like, shoot, I'm screwed. I'm never going to get to my destination. I'm never going to get my goal. No, it reroutes you. Good. It reroutes you. All of a sudden you make a U-turn. Turn right, go this way. And so sometimes we get lost on our path towards our goal, and it takes a little bit longer on that path of success. But if you're flexible in your approach, you can still achieve it. It's just different.
I love that. And beautiful reminder for me, even in this, I mean, that's some value for me is like, that's good. So I'm thinking as you're talking, like, where am I? Yeah. Am I making sure that I'm in control? The things that I'm expecting, are they of others? Am I pinning it on others, or is it, hey, at the end of the day, I'm in control of myself 100%, and I can adjust based on how other people react. But that just provides so much more control. And I actually think if I had more of that perspective when I was going through that situation, I think I could have alleviated a lot of really what was suffering. Right? It was unneeded suffering by just being like, okay, I'm only in charge of how I react to this situation. And so that's a great reminder. That's a really cool distinction.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we brought this up, and it's fantastic value. And it brings up another question I wanted to ask you too, is that if you could go back to your younger self, right? So 10 years ago when you started this, would you change anything? Would you tell yourself, hey, this is what you should do? And why? Why would you change anything? What would you try to do? One of those things you just said, like, I wish I knew this. I had this perspective when I was younger, but anything else that you might think would maybe just accelerate it or alleviate some of that pain and suffering to get you on the path further, faster?
I would probably put more. I would probably put more emphasis on relationships. I'm a very task oriented person, so I can be task all the way. And my girlfriend really balances me out because she's like relationship all the way and could care less about tasks, a lot of times. But I would say, no, I don't have any big, I think everything happened to me for a reason. I like where I am. Obviously, if someone came to me and gave me a pass and said, hey, you can know everything you know now, but you could redo it. Like, yeah, I feel like I'd just get like 10 more years of my life, and I'd get to read. So, but I like where I am. I'm happy with where I am. I'm excited about where I'm going. If I could go back, I think just something I'm learning on this journey is relationships are the spice of life. Like I can do tasks, I can punch out a long day and make great progress, but there's just something about bonding with another person and having a conversation and having good friends. And it's not something I really focused on. And so I just didn't really focus on it until more recently when I've started building relationships. And so and a lot of times in my head, I'm thinking, wait, is this relationship going to make me money? Like, is this relationship going to help me grow my business, which is like a huge focus of mine right now? And then I just have to be like, no, but this is building, like you said, Corey, this is building memories. I'm building magic moments. And at the end of our lives, as well as I do, you won't remember your whole life, but you will remember moments. And it's those that I want to build. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
That's awesome. So what are you doing now? You've got one of the top rated martial arts schools in the country, right? I mean, you got how many hundreds or are you up to 1,000? How many active students do you guys teach on a monthly basis?
Yeah, 1,000.
1,000. Wow. That's just incredible. And you've got how many instructors working for you?
Yeah. So we run a model where it's really one instructor per location and then 2 support people. So it's a team of 3 run a school of about 300 people, 250, 300 people. We have 4 locations and one of those is brand new. So they have about 50 new members and one of those is about 8 months old. But between the 4 locations, we have almost right under 1,000 members and active coming to class. And I love it. One of the cool things I'm really excited about is we just implemented a life skills program that takes a lot of my personal development experience and Tony Robbins' experience and all this experience I've learned from and teaches it to these kids. So it teaches them a lot. Like one of our life skills is gratitude. And we teach them one of the requirements that they have to do to get their black belt is they have to do the Miracle Morning for 10 days in a row. And they have to get up and do the little thing. We created a little Miracle Morning follow-along video for them so they could actually do it. And so we implemented this life skills program that in addition to them learning to kick and punch and get out of a chokehold and put someone else in an arm lock, they have to learn these life skills and they have exercises that they have to do along with these life skills. So I'm psyched about that. That was a project that was the last 2016 project that we just came to fruition now, and we just made it mandatory in our schools. So
I love that.
You asked me what I'm doing. I'm really excited about that.
Oh my God, that's amazing, man. I mean, what a way to take something that, it's because like you said, sometimes kids go, and I did karate when I was a kid, and it was just to get that confidence. I was a very small kid. I was like, I think when I was doing karate, like 50 pounds soaking wet, and I didn't even gain any weight until I went to high school. And so, but to bring in those life skills, right? The gratitude, gratitude was not a skill or a habit that I developed. I don't know if that's a habit that you have on a daily basis. But I know that when I get stressed, because I believe stress is an emotion, I always ask myself, all right, what can I be grateful for? Because there's so much to be grateful for, even in the hard times. And the Miracle Morning, I love that. It's huge, and just practicing gratitude, actually practicing it. People think you're just going to be grateful for everything you have when you've got a bunch of great, amazing things. No. Yeah. You've got to be grateful when you've got nothing. So that way, when you have all those things, you're still grateful, because money and all that stuff, it's just a magnifier of emotion. It doesn't change who you are. I don't believe it changes who you are. I believe it just magnifies it. You know, I know so many people who don't have any money, and yet they volunteer their time to help people in need, right? To go to the soup kitchen, or just to, you know, they see someone who's homeless and they give them their food. They don't have a lot, but they give. They give because they love to give, not because they have a lot of money. And so people who have a lot of money who give a lot probably gave when they had nothing. You know, people who don't give a lot didn't give when they had nothing either. So it's a mentality and it's a habit that you have to develop.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. These are all just lessons that like I learn, and then you need to relearn and relearn and relearn. So you're reinforcing a lot of these lessons even for me right now. And it's good to hear it again.
You were talking a little bit about what you're doing now and teaching those life skills. I wanted to ask, along this building up to 4 schools, what surprised you most about the process?
What surprised me most about the process of building 4 schools? I'm just gonna. I could probably put some real thought into that. But off the top of my head, my first answer is going to be that everybody is not motivated the same way I am. And I know that sounds like a very elementary distinction, but it's so easy for me to go back to a place of thinking that other people are motivated like I am. And so I try to use the book that someone would use to motivate me. I try to use that same book on them, and it doesn't work. And I'm like, interesting. Why is this not working? You know, oh, wait a second. Like, not everybody wants to be financially wealthy. Like that's a legit thing. Like, not everybody wants, and I guess you could probably, you're the beliefs guy, so you could probably dig in there and be like, well, what belief is keeping, you know, I don't know, but I just like, people want different stuff for their life. And so for me, it's a challenge of like getting to know them. And so that's really surprised me. It surprised me that I couldn't use money to motivate everybody, you know, that it just wasn't a motivator for everybody. It surprised me that everybody wasn't a hunter. Like, I'm the guy who wants to grow. I'm the guy I could be 10 times bigger than I am right now, and I'd still be like, Corey, I got to get off this call because I got to go put up another school. You know what I mean? Like, that's just who I am. That's my personality. And so to realize and to learn, like, wait, some people are farmers, and dang, I need farmers, because if we were all hunters, like it would be crazy. So that's been a surprise, and and something I've had to constantly remind myself. I was reminded of it today. I was in an interview, and I was telling the guy that income is one of our values in our organization, that we're all working towards this 6-figure income, you know, the guys that are working on my team. And I looked over at one of my team members was sitting there, and I looked over at my team member and I said, right, isn't that true? Like, everyone here is pretty motivated by money. Would you say that? And he kind of looks at me and was like, no. And I was like, really? And I just had to I was like, wait a second, I knew this already. So that's been surprising, man. It's just been, it's what a unique experience it is to be here on earth, and to everybody has these different beliefs and these different values and these different things. And it's cool to get to know about those, because then you get to really tap into what someone else is like. And that's what makes us us, right? Like, that's what makes us different, is the different things that we value and the different things we believe.
Absolutely. Man, that's amazing. It's so true. And you talk about your peer group a lot, and I wanted to jump into just some of the tools and strategies you have used to accelerate your growth, to go from 15 years old and with a $15,000 loan to 4 schools with 1,000+ students, just absolutely crushing it. And I love it. I love watching your growth. And including all these incredible personal experiences, the actual personal development into your martial arts schools. So what are the tools? And it's to me, it sounds like the mastermind group that you're in has been quite a big strategy or tool to help you kind of grow more. But what else is doing it?
Yeah, I would totally say that's one. Peer group is huge. So let me just be clear on the question. The question is, what have I used, or what would I suggest for people who want to accelerate their growth? Is that kind of what you're going?
Yeah. So how have you become so successful in such a short amount of time at such a young age? What tools and strategies did you have?
I don't know if people will be watching this, but I'll tell you, like, I learned, my first martial arts instructor taught me this, and it's a very simple little thing that he taught me, but like, it just kind of clicked. Like, it got me thinking, at least. So maybe it'll do the same for someone else. He says, Mr. Wegert, and he's Master Arthur's his name. He's awesome, but he's like a hardcore old school martial arts guy. He goes, everybody is going to make $1 million. Some people are going to make it in this amount of time. Some people are going to make it in this amount of time. So he did this thing with his hands where he widened them to like almost represent like an amount of time, but then he turned it on its head and he goes, but your job is it's never the length of time you do anything. He's like widening and shortening his hands. And he turns it on its head and he goes, it's always the amount of intensity you fill that time up with. And I was just like, I get that. Like, it was just like one of those like Mr. Miyagi moments of like, okay. So if I increase my level of intensity, I think people have different words for that, for intensity. Massive action is the way Jim Rohn would put it. Massive action. You don't just do one call, do 1,000 calls. Like, if you're going to do one, do 1,000. And in my mind, like, if you're going to train, if you're going to stretch, like when I go to stretching class with my instructor, you don't just like go into your split for 10 seconds. You freaking stretch like you have a partner that pushes you and you're crying and you're screaming and it's like the most painful class ever. But like, that's his way of saying, look, I have 40 minutes with you. We aren't just going to do static stretches. We're going to do isometric stretches. We're going to do isokinetic stretches. We're going to do dynamic stretches. And he fills that time, that 45 minutes, with a higher level of intensity. So I believe the intensity you bring to something is huge.
I love that. I've never heard that before, and that was just a great representation.
Yeah.
So, I like to play full out. I like to be the best me each and every day too. And so I probably play at a high level of intensity.
Yes.
And so I've just never seen it like that. And that's just great. It's not about how long it takes you, but how much intensity you do it with.
That's right. Yeah, man.
Absolutely. So to finish up a little bit is, I believe in the 80-20 rule. You know about that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where basically 80% of your results come from about 20% of your actions. What would be one action, and maybe we can get a couple actions that really give you that 80%, but what would be like one action today somebody might be able to do?
Totally. No, I got it. And I'll take these from things that I think I did. They were little decision points in my life that I made and that really changed my life. So I'll just kind of give from my experience. A lot of times there's these courses or these programs or these inspirational seminars that we want to go to, but maybe they cost money. And so we like, they're kind of on our mind. They're like, yeah, we've been thinking about going to that. Like, just decide, like, go, like, sign up for it. Because even if the content could suck, but you might meet somebody. The content could be awesome. You might be inspired by something. Or just the fact, everything could be terrible, but you might take something away from that changes your life. And just by taking the time to focus on yourself and your growth is great. So if you're not a person that's out there making things happen, or if you're not a person out there, I should say, that is, already doing a lot of personal development stuff, I would say, like, that's an immediate action you could take. Like, go sign up for that thing. Here's an action. Don't leave this podcast without doing one thing. Because something came up for you if you were watching this. Something. You had some thought. Especially if you got this far and you're all the way to the end, you've been processing this. So that being said, if you're listening to it, my encouragement would be write down one action item that comes up for you, like whatever it is. Like, do one thing.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Just don't leave. Like, don't leave your car. If you're listening to the car, don't leave your car. We're about ready to be done. Like, just do one thing and don't leave it without taking some action. But I'll say one more that's really good is just as like if they want an idea of something to do is commit to doing something to somebody that you would not want to let down. Like, if you don't want to let your wife down, like, commit to your wife, you're going to make something happen. If you don't want to let, your best friend down, call your best friend right now while you're in the moment. Like use the emotions. I think a lot of people, I don't want to buy it in the moment. I don't want to do it in the moment. Like, no. Like, use it and call call your best friend and say, I commit to this by this date. And here's my punishment if I don't. So I think commit, or you just put a Facebook status out there that says, hey, want some accountability? Here's what I'm going to make happen by the end of the month, or something like that. Like, that's a simple action. That'll take you 10 seconds.
I love that idea. Absolutely. So those actions are super simple, yet so powerful as well. I want to kind of go into just a little bit of a rapid fire of just different things that you might be able to give some information for. So if someone's starting out a business, or just trying to find their way a little bit, what's one tool that you would suggest that they use?
Specifically to help start the business, or just for their personal growth
If you got one for each, I'd love it.
Yeah, personal growth. I would say Yeah, I would say miracle morning. Like, if I'm just rapid firing, right? Like, you got to have some sort of ritual for yourself where you get up and you prime yourself and you put yourself in a good state of mind for the rest of the day. Business, the first thing that came to mind was read the E-Myth. The E-Myth
Revisited.
The E-Myth Revisited is the story, right? Isn't that the story one?
Yes.
You got I try to talk people out of starting their businesses by first having them read that, and then if they still want to do it, great. Then they're really in. But if you want to start a business, like, that book explains the process you need to go through and explains so much about what starting a business is like. So I have everyone read that first before they go into the process.
Fantastic. I mean, I was going to ask, what book do you recommend for most people to read? Like, what's something they could go buy or listen to on Audible right now?
One that's really sparked my attention that I haven't even finished yet, but I've just listened to little parts, is Relentless by Tim Groover, I think.
Yeah.
Relentless.
I haven't read that one yet.
I haven't finished it, but I'll say that one. But let me give you another recommendation is just the classic. They're timeless. Think and Grow Rich. I mean, here's a guy. Think and Grow Rich is literally a guy who spent his entire life studying success, and he didn't just study success; he studied failures too. And he wrote a bunch of books on that. So I'd say that one. And Napoleon Hill wrote another book. He wrote Outwitting the Devil. And it's cool if you get it in audiobook, because when the devil talks, it's like a conversation. So it's like really fun to listen to. But when the devil talks, it sounds like the devil. So it's like I'm reading a kid's book, and I freaking love it.
That's awesome, man. All right. Very cool. Very cool. So, Sam, listen, I want everybody to be able to connect with you in the future. How can we reach out to you?
I would just say to go to Sam Wegert, Wegert, WEGERT.com. That's the best way. All my stuff's on there.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely, man. Listen, this has been an absolute amazing conversation. Amazing discussion. I just been having a good time and learning from you and all the tools and habits that you have. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Man, Corey, keep doing what you're doing. You're at the beginning of some really cool stuff. I can feel it. And I love you, brother. And thanks for everything you do to help people. And you inspire me. Keep it up. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
If you guys enjoyed the show and learned something of value, the one ask that we have is please go subscribe. If you'd like to leave us a 5-star rating and review, that definitely helps us get our message out there. Because each week I'm going to interview amazing people. And I want to be able to give you more and more tools and strategies that get you real results. Feel free to connect with me on Facebook or Instagram at Corey Corpodian, or just visit the website at unleashsuccess.com. Remember, knowing is not enough. Knowledge alone is not power. Action is. Because action is the only way to get the results you want in life and truly live the life of your dreams. So go take some action. Subscribe to the podcast and get ready to unleash success in you.